Welcome to Mayor's Night Out, 3rd District, rescheduled from earlier times. I want to say it's probably April.
It was April, Mayor.
It was April. Hi, Donna. How's it going?
Hi.
We couldn't do it in April for obvious reasons, so we never want to skip a Mayor's Night, so we rescheduled it, and here we are. And day after election night, I see a victorious school board member in the audience. I want to congratulate Lisa Miller on being reelected to Hammond School Board. Give her a round of applause, everybody. I also see Councilman Dan Spitali in the audience. Good to see you, Councilman. Thank you very much for being here. Councilwoman at Large, Janet Venez. Good to see you, Councilwoman. We have our 6th District Councilman, which is the Hessville section of our city, Scott Rakos. Good to see you, Councilman. And as we do for every Mayor's Night, we start off with the District Councilperson. We're in the 3rd District, so I'd like to introduce your 3rd District Councilman, Barry Tyler, for a few words. Come up here, Barry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to welcome everybody. This is my first Mayor's Night Out as a council person, so excited to be here and dive into some of the work that we're doing in our district. There's a lot of exciting things going on. I just want to thank all of the department heads for coming out too and sharing these updates, and for everybody watching at home. Glad that you are tuning in, and hopefully you have some good questions for us. Thanks.
It's crazy when you think about this is your first Mayor's Night Out, Barry. You know, Barry, this is his first term, first year, but anybody that's known Barry, it doesn't seem like his first term, first year. He's been working for the Hammond residents for a long time, so congratulations. Welcome to Mayor's Night. Let's go ahead and introduce the department heads that are here. Sometimes, for the most part, these are all Hammond's department heads. Sometimes, however, they're on vacation or something and they're replaced with somebody else in their department. I'd also like to point out we have Jasmine here today. Thank you very much, Jasmine, for helping us communicate with all of our Hammond residents. Thank you. All right. How's it going, Sharon Daniels?
Good evening, Mayor.
She is the head of Hammond's Personnel Department, like the Human Relations Department. So why don't we go ahead and introduce everybody.
Sharon Daniels, Human Relations, College Bound, and Human Resources.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Jim Talon, Park Department.
Kristen Hill, representing Hammond Legal Aid on behalf of our director, Chris Sakalaris, who can't be here with us today.
Megan Flores, City Controller.
Timothy Wood, 3rd District Foreman.
Kevin Margraf, Hammond Fire Department.
Brian Poland, City Planning.
Ron Novak, Environmental Management.
John Doty, Hammond Police Department.
Phil Talon, Chief of Staff.
Hi, Dean Button, Engineering.
Mylan Krasinski, Port Authority.
Ann Anderson, Economic Development.
Mark McLaughlin, Water Department.
Bob Vale, Building Department.
Carmen Paniagua, Housing Authority.
Matt Mutis, Sanitary District.
Kelly Kearney, Inspections Department.
Jack Smith, Sewer Maintenance.
Marty Wolgas, Hammond Sanitary District.
We also have Kevin Smith out in the audience. Good to see you, Kevin Smith. He's corporate counsel for the city of Hammond. We also have Gary Gleason, who's Hammond Street Commissioner. He usually has the district person represent him, but he's always in the audience. Good to see you, Gary Gleason. Looking around. All right. I also want to thank Kim Roberts. Where are you, Kim? Who is the general manager for the Hammond Sportsplex. Good to see you, Kim. Thank you very much. Interesting facts about the Hammond Sportsplex. We do really well here. Obviously, anybody that lives in anywhere near this in the city, it's constantly packed with cars. But put it in numerical perspective, you know, how much we do through the bar we have in here, through admission prices, the concession stand, like $1.2 million. Is that accurate, Kim? A year, just this building, $100,000 in revenue a month that this is doing right now. And we use it obviously to hire the part-time staff and, you know, the people that work here, but it's been a huge success for our city. It's something I'm very proud of. It's actually been an overwhelming success, and we're actually talking about the next iteration. You know, are we making the best use of the Sportsplex? That's something we're sort of going through right now. You know, you trust us with a building that costs, at the end of the day, it's close to $20 million to build this building. And it's our job to make sure that we're using it for the highest and best use. And that's something that we're going through right now. It's wildly successful, especially on the other side. You know, the other side is constantly packed, and I'm not, you know, I love soccer just like the next person, but that's something we're struggling with right now is, you know, are we using it in the highest and best use? I mean, if we did different things and laid it out differently, could we make closer to $2 million a year from the Sportsplex? It's possible. So these are some of the things. It's funny, you know, I've been mayor for a long time, and I'm blessed to be your mayor. And I want to assure you that we're always looking at things differently. We're always trying to challenge ourselves to do better. And that's a perfect example is this thing has only been open now for 2 years, and we're already challenging ourselves. We think we can do better. And it's $1.2 million in revenue for a sports complex. It's pretty impressive. Very few places in Indiana have a sportsplex that does business like this one. One of them is probably down there in Westfield, which is, that one's probably doing even better than ours, but something to be very proud of here in the city of Hammond. So thanks, Kim, for letting us use it. And as you know, we've done these before. Mayor's Night Out is driven by the written question. I see back there by the goal, I have Eva and Jill. Hi, guys. How's it going? Eva and Jill are very nice, and they have questionnaires for you. If you have a question you'd like to ask, it asks you to put your name and address, but you don't have to. We like you to do it so we can follow it up, but sometimes people aren't comfortable doing that, and that's fine. Fill it out. It ends up getting its way over to Donna Muta, who's the Hammond Special Events Coordinator. She runs Mayor's Night Out, and Donna will ask the question. And then we try to stay on topic, right? So it's like, you know, if you're talking about your property taxes, and it's something that's particular to somebody else, and you have a question about property taxes, raise your hand. We'll have Sharon or Donna come by with the microphone. And the reason we have the microphone is because Jake Jacobs, right in front of me here, is airing this live on Go Hammond TV. So we like to do things new age, and that's one of the things we do very well here in Hammond is we try to have all of our public meetings aired live on Go Hammond TV. So in fact, right now, there's 109 Hammond residents watching Mayor's Night Out on Go Hammond TV, so they're doing it very safely. So anyway, thank you for being here. Donna, how are we doing on questions?
We only have 4 at this point, Mayor, so we're going to be done quick.
I'm not begging for a lot of questions. Okay, we all had long nights last night. And by the way, we just did Mayor's Night Out like 2 weeks ago, right? Was it 2 weeks?
Sir. About that.
2 weeks, right? And because this one was rescheduled and we didn't want to leave your district short, so we rescheduled this one. So I'm not complaining, but when we run out of questions, we'll pack it up and go home. Either that or we have a pickup soccer game we could start here. We could do that too. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, Mayor, let's kick it off with engineering. I walked here because it was a nice night. Are there other pedestrian-friendly projects going on besides Homan Avenue, maybe Indianapolis Boulevard or Morton along 169th?
Before I pass off to Dean, who I know is grabbing the microphone, this is a very good question. Whoever asked this, we're really looking at the way we do business in Hammond and trying to challenge ourselves. You know, I always talk about when you go to the Hammond Police Department and you go on Douglas there, right? When you go on Douglas Street, do you see people using it as a 4-lane street, 2 in each direction, right? So like literally if you're in the fast lane and you're not going fast enough, I could fly around you going 50 on Douglas Street. It's a little glorified residential street. But we've never had lines on that street, and because we've been driving across this city for decades, we get used to just flying down these streets, and Douglas is a perfect example. Why is this street 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction? That's a residential street. So why don't we squeeze streets like Douglas, Holman, 173rd, possibly Kennedy, and squeeze them down. Make lanes like we did in North Hammond. For those of you that are familiar, up in Sheffield and North Hammond, same type of situation. We squeezed it down to 3 lanes with a flex lane in the middle. So if you have to turn, you can get out of the 1 lane in each direction. So it's 3 lanes instead of what it was 4. We installed bike lanes. It's just slowed everything down. And this is going to piss off the people that like to go fast. Like, I like going down Douglas, and I like passing people 50 miles an hour. Or how about this? I like going down Kennedy. I like going from East Chicago to South County and I like to go fast, and I take Kennedy and I go right through Hessville. Or when I'm coming home, I like to go fast and I like to go right through there. They're not going to like this plan. The people that are using Kennedy as a cut through are going to hate this plan. They're going to call me names. They're going to tell us how stupid we are and how we didn't think this out. No, we did think this out. We don't want you using Kennedy as a cut through. And we're going to change the way we do business because we're trying to rejuvenate the downtown district in Hessville. Same thing we're doing to downtown Hammond. This is, by the way, we hired a world famous planner, Jeffrey Speck, right, Ann? He's like a rock star. If you're a planner and you say we hired Jeffrey Speck, it's like having somebody from the Beatles, right? This guy gave us ideas on what to do in downtown Hammond, and we were taken with him so much that we've taken his ideas to different parts of our city, for free, by the way. He was expensive for what the services he provided in downtown, but we're learning from him there and taking it to other parts of the city. So recently we've done something called the Capital Improvement Board. Dean is the chairman of the Capital Improvement Board. He's going to have a lot of these types of issues coming across his committee. So you want to talk a little bit about this concept?
Glad to, Mayor. So about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, through the mayor's direction, we adopted a complete streets policy to look at all of our streets in every capital improvement project and identify those uses on those areas in those streets that are important for all modes of transportation. And so that is definitely a capital point for which we're looking forward to moving forward. Recently, Mayor asked me to look at a method to connect all of our bike trail systems together. And so next year, through the Capital Improvements Board direction and the Board of Public Works and Safety, we'd like to extend a bicycle lane, one in each direction along 173rd, from Homan all the way to Grand. So through Purdue Cal, through into Hessville. So that'll be a nice link that'll connect the neighborhood areas along the south side of Hammond to the bike trail system, like on Southeastern or that Erie-Lackawanna Trail. We have applied to NERC for federal funding of a bike trail extension of the visionary Marquette Greenway. We scored very high, Mayor. We were the #1 ranked scoring project. We have a meeting tomorrow with NERC to validate that. And that section of the Marquette Greenway is between Kennedy Avenue and Klein. It'll go through the Shirley Hines and Nature Conservancy property, which is north of the Indiana Toll Road, so north of Michigan, between Kennedy and Klein. And we've reached out to our partners of Shirley Hines and the Nature Conservancy, and they're 100% on board with what we're doing there. And that'll connect to a section of the Marquette Greenway that has been funded to go into East Chicago by the train station. And so we're constantly looking for areas of improving multimodal, multidiscipline transportation improvement projects. I would say last year we completed a sidewalk connection on 167th from Tanglewood to the Sportsplex, and that was a real important connection that we thought was very useful. So
Thanks,
we're always looking forward. Thanks, Mayor, and any other questions, let me know afterwards.
Thanks, Dean. I don't know if we answered the question, but if you have any follow-ups on that issue. Like I said, when the Homan actually started getting painted, of course we got some concerned phone calls because people don't pay attention to Mayor's Night and people don't pay attention to issues. Believe me, we didn't just go out there and start painting Homan. Like, hey, Gary, go paint Homan, right? It doesn't work like that. We do months of planning, sometimes longer than months of planning. Like the bike trail connections, years of planning. And then we analyze it property by property and how it affects people. Like, I think people just think we go out there and just tell, hey, Gary, sounds like a good idea. Why don't you paint, Homan differently? It doesn't work that way. So if we don't have any other questions on this issue, we'll move forward. All right.
Okay, Mayor. Do you support having Hammond join the cohort of communities in Northwest Indiana participating in Indiana University's greenhouse gas assessment program?
Could you say that again?
Do you support having Hammond join the communities in Northwest Indiana that are participating in IU's greenhouse gas assessment program?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Phil. I'm saying sure because I don't know much about it. we get asked to join lots of initiatives, and obviously anything that helps with the environment is something that's interesting to us, but I don't know much about it. Obviously Phil does.
Yeah, this is the one, this came up at the last Mayor's Night Out as well, where...
Was this that issue that came across NERC?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I
Where,
supported it. Right.
yeah, Mayor basically approved the spending. I think it was something like $300, and basically it brings in a student from a college to look at the emissions, greenhouse emissions that we have in Hammond, and then once you get that information, then you could try and use it to try and do better and have less emissions. So yes, the answer is the $300 was approved. It actually was paid for out of environmental, so Ron Novak could speak on
Phil,
that too.
Since we're talking about environment, and it seems like we only have a few questions, so if we do respond to this initiative, that's wonderful, but we've already made pretty huge strides in the city of Hammond about reducing our carbon footprint. We just recently completed a big project within the last couple of years with Leopardo Group. Could you talk a little bit about that, and maybe the chief could provide some insight on how it helped with the police department? And because really, if you really want to make an impact on the environment in the city, we have 100 police cars driving 24/7, basically. 90-something police cars driving 24/7. So we need to figure out how to help the chief and his officers save, to reduce our carbon footprint, and we came up with a way to do that. And Phil, you could talk generally about it, and maybe the chief could provide a little bit of input as well.
Yeah, I would say this is probably one of the largest energy efficient programs that the city of Hammond has ever undertaken. And essentially what we did is we hired a company called Leopardo Energy, and they changed almost all the light poles in the city to a more efficient light, LED lighting. And also took a lot of our buildings that the city owns and made them more green or more friendly, more energy efficient friendly. Changing out the HVAC systems, changing windows, basically anything that was going to produce less energy output and save us money, we took it on. One of the biggest parts of the program, though, is the changing over of our fleet. And that's where I'll hand it off to Chief Doty and let him tell you exactly what we did.
So we identified all the high mileage vehicles in the police department. Most of them are in patrol, in traffic, in the uniform division. And every one of your frontline vehicles now that you see on the street are all dual energy. So they start on natural gas, on regular gas for just a few minutes, and then they switch over to propane. We have bulletproof tanks that actually go inside the cars that are safer than the tanks that come OEM on the cars. They're just as fuel efficient, except the fuel for them is quite a bit cheaper. Right now it's about half as cheap. When we first started this, it was about 2/3 cheaper. And so as the market changes, but we're still half as cheap. I know last year we have over 90 vehicles running in that capacity. Every vehicle that is not in that capacity is either it's a specialty vehicle that cannot accept propane, or it's a very low mileage vehicle like a detective unit who's doing investigative work, who does a lot of office time, and it would be not cost efficient to do that for you. But we saved over $300,000 in fuel last year. The mayor also had them do all the buildings. I did look at our billings, and I believe we saved about $13,000 in NIPSCO also.
That's awesome.
Last year.
Yeah, and Chief, we were worried at first, when they're talking to us about converting the police fleet over to propane. I just picture you guys in like a high-speed chase, stepping on the gas, and then it sputters and it's like not working very well, or it's super cold out and you go to start the car and none of our cars will start because propane doesn't work well. I know you had those types of issues you were worried about as well,
We
right?
did, and one thing we were grateful for is the mayor let us go out and do our own field work. We went to South Bend, we went to Indianapolis, a couple places out of state, who are running natural gas opposed to propane. It was definitely the way to go. Nobody wanted the natural gas. Everybody wanted the propane.
Because natural gas had performance issues?
Yes, it did. It burns dirtier, and it was causing engine deficiencies, and the engine would actually wear out sooner. And the officers hated it at the larger departments.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out and did that groundwork first, and we were successful. We had a learning curve in the beginning. The officers had to get used to not a problem with accelerating. If you're on propane, you accelerate, it accelerates like it's supposed to. If your tank ran dry, which is rare, then it would switch over to gas. There could be momentarily just a stutter as it switches back and forth between fuels, but it happens so uncommonly that the officers, they are now used to it, they don't even mention it anymore.
Mhm.
And of course, they were worried that a hail of gunfire would erupt and their propane tanks would blow up.
Right.
But then when we took it out to the range, we actually shot one of the tanks and showed them it was bulletproof, and they were all in because it was safer than what they were already
That's
driving.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it was
really
good
cool.
stuff.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is your car's propane, right, Chief?
No, because I have a truck.
Oh, my bad.
So
I was
yes.
hoping you were going to say yes.
And I'm a little lower mileage than
Yeah, true.
the patrolman.
True. You're not
Yeah.
driving 24/7
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
They always taught me in law school, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, and I did anyway. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about your question, and then we expanded it to talk about stuff that we've done in the last couple of years that are, in my opinion, even bigger than that proposal. So we believe in green energy. I believe climate change is happening. I believe that we need to do something about it, for sure. I do. And, you know, I'm not a scientist, but I tell you, I've noticed a difference in my 50 years. I've noticed a difference in weather. So I just, we try to do what we can. So I think this is a more national issue personally, but obviously locally we have a big impact as well. So anyway, we'll move on to the next question. In the meantime, before we get there, I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Katrina Alexander and thank her for being here. Good to see you, Councilwoman. All right, let's move on, Donna.
Okay, Mayor, up next, police. What are you going to do to keep the city safe should the riots or looting break out due to the election?
Good question. Chief? What would you, the question is, what would you do if a riot broke out? Are we worried about riots related to the elections, any type of looting or anything like that?
This is the way we approach every situation. We go through intelligence first. We monitor social media 24/7. We have our task forces. The FBI Grit helps us with that. We're always on it. If there's something planned in Hammond, we usually know about it because we like them to come and register. When they do, we do consider them lower risk, of course, because they're probably coming here for a peaceful reason if they're willing to do it honestly and objectively. So it's the pop-ups. When you hear it on social media and they don't want to contact City Hall first, they don't want to get the required permit. When they're just talking on their own and they're going to show up, those are the ones we don't know how they're going to go, so we assess them a little differently. There's a higher risk category because we don't know who's running it. So we start working that backwards. So we'll work that backwards on social media and find out who the original organizer is. We'll find out if they've done bad things in other cities or have they been uneventful in other cities. And then we will, if they've been uneventful, we'll actually try to make contact with them and try to get them to go through the legal procedures. Hammond does have a CRT team, a civil response team. It is on call all the time. Should something bad happen, it's 18 guys. We are supported by other groups throughout the county, and we have supported them. We've only had to use them sparingly so far. Hammond has never been a target by Hammond citizens. Anything that's happened in Hammond has been outside people coming to Hammond. Our citizenry, they're not going to loot their own properties. They're not protesting against their police. They're not protesting against City Hall. We have a good community here. It's outsiders that come in that generally cause problems for us. We do have outsiders that come here peacefully, though, and they're allowed to demonstrate, and we're happy to have them here. We embrace them. Anybody that wants to come here peacefully, we embrace them fully. We do not embrace anybody that wants to come here and loot, shut our streets down, tear up neighborhoods. We're not going to support that. The peace of the Hammond citizen is what we're here for, and we're going to maintain that for you.
So, obviously we've been learning on the fly in regards to this issue, and I think it's a great issue, and I'm glad the question was asked. The protest that really sticks out in my mind is the one where we ended up at Dairy Bow. That was 3 days before my election day, and even though I blacked out most of what happened during that period, I'm trying to forget about a lot of the bad things that happened to me as I was running for Congress. The one I can't forget was a protest that started off at the Hammond Police Department and lasted for about 3.5 hours, beginning to end.
And that one started as a peaceful.
Right.
That was a Black Lives Matter
and it was
protest.
2 hours of just,
It was,
basically talking about people that passed.
Correct.
And
It was
remembering
organized
them.
by someone within Hammond. They took the proper steps and notified us. It was a fringe element that came in afterwards and did what the mayor's about to talk about.
So we start at the police department, and The police were in the department. I was with them, and we were monitoring, and we weren't getting anywhere near. We just let the protest happen and just try to be respectful and supportive, say, sure, and yeah, we're going to block Douglas Street and block traffic, no problem. We're not like saying, hey, you didn't get a permit. We didn't do anything like that. We just said, no problem. You're going to block Douglas Street. And then it was like 2 hours. So long, I had a campaign event I had to go to in Hobart. And I'm like watching this protest, it's totally peaceful. And even though we were worried because it was shortly before the primary, and obviously America was hot, still is hot, but it was real hot at that time because it was fresh. What happened with George Floyd was fresh still. I left because it was going well. And I remember I was with Kevin Smith, and we were in Hobart. And I started getting phone calls that the protest is starting to march. And we're like, okay, where are they going? I remember the route because I was picturing it in my head. They left on Douglas Street and they walked to Holman, which is probably not the way they wanted to go. I don't think a lot of the people marching were locals. They marched the wrong way. So they go to Holman and they start marching north over the bridge. So we're like, okay. They're not going to City Hall to protest. They're marching sort of the wrong way. Okay. So they go over the bridge. Now picture they get to Michigan. And I think they started to realize it's a pretty large group marching. And they're like, okay, we're going to double back. We're going to City Hall. So they go Michigan all the way down to Calumet, back over the bridge to City Hall. Now keep in mind, we could have been the police in the city and said, listen, you can't be blocking traffic. You can't do this. We chose not to. Okay, no problem. You're marching, no problem, right? So the group marches, ends up at City Hall. They protest in front of City Hall. At this point, we're close to 3 hours. The whole thing's been lasting. And we're totally like withdrawn, letting it happen, right? The protest is in front of City Hall, and nothing, no damage, nothing, anything like that. And then we start getting feedback that this group wants to go to the highway. And then it became bigger than Hammond because we also had about, 50 to 100 state police on Calumet Avenue making sure that that group wasn't going to get onto 8094. And now it's getting tough because the group's saying, okay, we're out. We're going to the highway. Chief's calling me, Mayor. They're marching south on Calumet. From City Hall, they're heading towards 8094. This is not a good situation. Kevin and I start hightailing it back to Hammond from Hobart, and the group is marching. We get to the group at the same time the group is at the Dairy Bell. We had a standoff. We had Hammond Police, Lake County Sheriffs, all kinds of police departments, state police galore. Basically, from Dairy Bell to the highway was nothing but police cars and police officers. And it was a total standoff. And we were just like, listen, you guys got to turn around. This is not going to happen. And it ended up, thankfully, the group turned around. There was no damage, no property damage, nothing, just block streets. We could handle block streets. We didn't go over the top. We didn't try to, unfortunately, there was a situation that escalated before I got there, but by the time I got there, it seemed like the group made the decision to move north and everything was better, okay? If you remember correctly, the very next day in Calumet City, they had a situation get out of hand and River Oaks Mall was completely destroyed. And quite frankly, they've lost businesses that haven't reopened since then. And still, that's the day we shut down the border between Illinois and Indiana. We got through that whole ordeal with one business that had a window broken. One. I'm super proud of that. I think it was how the police department handled, how the protesters handled it. I think that we came to our senses and prevented a lot of destruction in our city. And I'm proud of the way it worked. It was ugly. I think contributed to my loss for sure. And it was ugly in a lot of ways, but I think that we prevented a lot of damage in Hammond and a lot of bad things from happening. I was not happy about how it turned out, but I was happy that the business community wasn't jarred. We didn't, because what we saw the next day was tragic. Still is. What happened in Chicago is tragic. What happened across America is tragic. What happened on the streets is tragic. But I can tell you from where I sit is my job is to protect the city of Hammond. The police officer's job is to protect the city of Hammond. If there's protests and they're going to block traffic, we've proven that we could work with protesters. We will. But if anything happens like what happened in Cal City, it's my job and it's his job to stop that. And we will. We work too damn hard to get businesses, and if people work too damn hard to open family businesses to have it just destroyed in one day for something that wasn't even their fault. We work too damn hard for that. If I'm a mayor that lets that happen, I need to go home. I would never be able to live with myself as your mayor if I let that happen without doing something. We will. I hope it never comes to that. I do. But you elected me for a reason. We pay a lot of money to the Hammond Police Department for a reason, and the reason is to protect our city. So,
Mayor, I'd just like to follow that up with specific to this election, there is no social media buzz, nothing going on that's expected in Hammond. We're always concerned about what's going on in Illinois because when Cal City was destroyed last time, as the mayor stated, we sealed off our city and kept those people out. They were coming our way, literally walking and driving our way with U-Hauls. And we blocked every street on State Line with the mayor's permission, and we stopped them in their tracks. We're more prepared for that now than we were. Cal City is boarded up as we sit here. Chicago is boarded up with their bridges up as we sit here. Hammond's not. We're open. Most of the protesters know we're going to be here, organized and willing to stand up to them. If they're coming here to loot and destroy, we're going to stand up to them. So there's nothing planned peacefully to come here. We are on guard. We're on a higher level of alert than normal. We're on standby in case something from Illinois spills over into Hammond. We don't have any information it will, but they are expecting trouble, so we have to just be prepared for their spillover. That's it.
Chief said that we learned and we're better off for it now. I agree with the chief totally. We had to do something. On Sunday, we had to make a decision. I don't know. There's people in this room that have lived in Hammond a heck of a lot longer than me. When was the last time you couldn't go west to east into Illinois? Or east, west to east from Illinois into Indiana, or east to west from us into Illinois? We shut down the entire border, including the boulevard. The only way into our city was by highway. We made a decision. I think it was completely the right decision, quite frankly. Overwhelming positive response from the residents of our city. But we had to do that by text message and calling on a Sunday morning. We were all like, you see what's going on? What are we going to do? Gary Gleason, the reason I wanted you, if I called you, because we've had this drill where we talk, if I said, Gary, we need to shut down the border, how long would it, because you're more ready now than you were that first day, how long would it take the men and women of the Public Works Department to shut down the border if we had to?
Probably about an hour.
Right, but you have mostly everything staged, right?
Right. We did at that time not for that. We have different areas in Hammond that we keep sand in case of flooding or anything. So we started with sand, and then we even put salt out there because we have quite a bit. But we've changed it up since then. And if it came to it within an hour, we could shut it down or sooner.
The day we shut the border down, we were using cars just to block the streets. My car was one of them. There was so many people just working together to make sure that, and when the chief says the crowds from River Oaks were coming towards Hammond, that is absolutely true. I saw it with my own eyes. I was the one out there taking pictures. Like, the entire crowd, all the cars are going towards Hammond right now. We were next. We stopped it. And that's the thing. I think that's why you hired me. It's because if we're faced with a situation, we have to stop it. We have the police department. We can't let destruction happen to our downtown. We can't let destruction happen to our stores. We just can't. That's where you draw the line. If it's peaceful protest, they want to block streets, they want to do this, I think we can work together. We can sympathize for sure. But like the moment it turns violent, that's when we have to draw the line as a city. So I think that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. Any other follow-up on this? I know there's strong feelings about this issue. But the long and the short of it is we are definitely ready, and we're definitely talking about it. Definitely. Like, I have regular meetings with the police department. Every other week I have a formal meeting with the police department, but that doesn't count the dozens of times I'm talking to the chief or the assistant chief or the captain of patrol or the captain of detectives. It's a very tight relationship between City Hall and the police department. So, all right, let's move on.
Okay, Mayor. What can be done about the truck route on Chicago Avenue and 4,700 blocks of Torrance, Toll, Henry, etc.? The trucks shake the foundation of our homes. Can we reduce the speed or repair that road, whatever can be done to slow down the traffic?
Dean?
Yeah, so this is a difficult thing for us right now because we're in the middle of a major $10 million reconstruction project of Sheffield and Sheffield and Goslin. We are doing everything we can. We meet on a regular basis with the contractor and the engineer to make sure that we're diverting the traffic where we can. I know that we've had to send traffic north on Sheffield, I guess it would be. Part of that was closed, so that's why I'm hesitating. But we've had to send them down 141st between Sheffield and Calumet because we couldn't allow them to come south on Sheffield because that road was closed. Well, that's reopened now, so we've got some improvement there. But this project's going to go on until next October, so we do have a lot of that. Donna, did you say 4,600 block of?
46, 47 blocks of Torrance, Toll, Henry, all the streets that are along Chicago.
Yeah, most of those streets shouldn't have truck traffic on it, so I'll
Well,
talk.
I think they're saying the truck that goes east to west on Chicago to Gosselin, right? And going in Illinois, I think that's what they're talking about, which is, we can't really do much about that. That's a heavy
There's
truck
really
route.
not a lot I can do because right now they're in the phase 2 of this construction project, and which closes Sheffield between Gosselin and Chicago, and we got a lot of work to do in there. So this morning when I talked to the engineers, I told them, you know, when you get to Holman, you got to turn left on Sheffield and go up north to 141st. And I know those residents are suffering, but that's really all we can do right now. So we're trying to keep them away from Gosselin, away from Henry, away from Torrance, and we're working really hard on that. And so that just happened Monday, and we will monitor that, and I'll work with the chief on enforcement.
From the 30,000-foot view, for the resident that asked that question, that area is going to be completely made over within the next 5 years. I imagine, without doing the famous Mayor Tom exaggeration, close to $200 million is going to be spent in that general area in the next 5 years. And it's been approved by the federal government. The local agreements are in place. Whether you support the train idea or not, whether it's a good idea or not, that's way above my pay grade, okay? I don't think it's necessarily the best idea in the world personally, but I can tell you this, selfishly, as Hammond's mayor, we get a good deal out of it. Selfishly, do I think paying $800 million for an 8-mile extension is a good use of money? No, I don't. However, I'm supposed to be looking out for the residents of Hammond, and when we could spend, do you remember the number, Phil, the local number, Megan? Do you remember how much we're spending in income tax money to support the train? $450,000 a year sticks out in my head for some reason. $450,000 a year for 20 years, right? So which is what? I'm doing quick math. 4.5 million times 2 is $9 million ish. Let's just say, if this isn't perfect, let's call it 10. We spend 10 million, and we're going to get 200 million in return. Maybe more than that. That's not even counting Gosselin, Chicago, and all that. That's new jobs, new station, new infrastructure completely. So I realize if you live in those blocks that it's a pain in the butt right now, and I realize that, but if you could keep your eye on the prize and think about what it's going to look like 5 years from now, this is not hyperbole. This is fact. Proved last week. Groundbreaking last week. That area is going to see such a huge investment. It's an amazing investment for one of the oldest infrastructure areas of the city of Hammond. That area in particular, Brunswick and all that. It's focused right in that area, and I think it's a real positive. I really do. I don't know if it's a good move for America to spend $800 million on an 8-mile extension. I don't know if it's a good move for America. I know, sitting from the mayor's office chair, it's a real good move. It's a real good move for us, in my opinion. Tough issue. Sure.
So the other thing you probably need to know is that phase 2 of Chicago is set to bid next month. And so that project's going to start next year at the same time. And this section is on Sheffield, a little bit north of Chicago, all the way to Torrance. So you're going to see more construction and more improvement in that area. I just ask that you bear with us, and we'll do the best we can to keep those trucks out of your backyard and front yard.
Hey, Councilman Spitali, could you grab a microphone real quick? I want to ask you a question with your professional expertise. Councilman Spitali, besides being a great councilman for the city of Hammond, is a realtor. And there's one interesting thing, because like, if you're in here right now, I imagine you haven't been selling homes in the city of Hammond, but Councilman Spitali on his side sells homes in the city of Hammond. And there's one thing I hear from realtors quite often is how well real estate's doing in the city of Hammond right now. And I was wondering if you could shed like a couple minutes of light on that, Councilman Spitali.
With our homebound program has brought a lot of people here, but irregardless if they didn't have that, Hammond is, the assessed value, I know, you all know, has gone up quite a bit. The homes that were $80,000 homes now are up to 90 to 100. People have put a bid on properties in the city of Hammond, might be $100,000 on the market. They come up with 102,000, up to 105,000. So we're moving up on every sale that we have. Everybody wants to come to Hammond because of the homebound program and the college-bound program also.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Councilman. The thing is, as your mayor, that's, if our homes, when you sell your house, and hopefully you're moving up and buying another house in our city, but when you're selling your house, my job at the end of the day is to make sure your house is being bought for the price you're looking for, if not for more. If you're having to lower your price because people don't want to live in our city, I'm not doing my job the right way. When I hear what the realtors are telling me, and when I see some of my neighbors that are unfortunately putting their house up and the new person's buying it and it's way over what they thought they were going to get, I hear a lot of complaining about Hammond a lot. Of course I do. I'm the mayor of Hammond. But I tell you what, when I hear stuff like that, I know we're onto something. We're doing something right. I know people like to gripe about things here and there, but I tell you what, when you need to sell your home and you're getting what you're looking for and somebody puts an offer on it within a few days, come on, we're doing something right.
That didn't think much about Hammond before, with all the things that are going on, with the new homes going on, what you've done to everything throughout from one side of town to the other, the people are looking at that. And they say, boy, Hammond looks 100% different than it was 10 years ago. And people are not afraid to come here anymore as they used to be. There used to be realtors that didn't want to come here. Now they can't wait to get a listing over here in the city of Hammond.
I appreciate it.
So it's booming over. That's I can tell you. I listen to people in my office. There's 100 people in my office, and I probably talked to at least 65 to 70 of them in the last couple of months. They keep asking me, when are we going to have some more things going in the city of Hammond? They can't wait to come over here and start buying in our city.
I appreciate it, Councilman. You know, we have a couple housing developments we're looking at right now. I know that there's a lot of people nervous about the future of Gavitt High School, for instance. You know, I'm so proud of Hammond that we came together as a community, regardless of how you felt about this issue. As an urban community, building the new Hammond High School with the money we raised through our referendum is going to be a boom for that part of the city. Now, naturally, people are worried about what happens to Gavitt now that it's not going to be a high school. What happens to Clark now that it's not going to be a high school? I can tell you that both projects we have leads on, serious leads. Purdue Northwest wants Gavitt. And that's such a great thing. They want to make it more a part of their campus so that students maybe even living there one day, maybe going to classes, of course, in that building. Purdue is, when they buy a property, they do it the right way. And I'm telling you, just the fact that Purdue wants that makes me satisfied because the city of Hammond wants Clark. We want the Clark athletic fields and we want Clark High School. And I could tell you that there's demand for real estate in that part of our city, and we're looking at, doing what we did at Parish View, doing what we did at Millennium, and, developing new houses, building new houses in our city, and that's what we're looking at right now. So I feel bad for Jasmine. She's trying to keep up, and we're just talking like crazy. I'll give you a break. All right, let's go ahead. Next question. Oh, did you have a follow-up, sir? Okay, we'll go. We'll go ahead and jump to your question. We're short on questions anyway.
Thanks, Mayor. Just had a quick question. If you can provide kind of an update on Holman Avenue, and you had there was like a big plan, big study, and so I know that they're looking at potentially reducing the traffic flow from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes, and maybe having a
Awesome.
bike trail. I was just curious.
Thank you,
kind
sir.
of what's up.
I appreciate you asking that. I'm going to have Ann. Could you grab a microphone? Ann was probably the person in the city of Hammond working closest with Jeff Speck. His concepts are, he told us, what I'm going to tell you guys doesn't take a lot of like construction work. He's like, it takes a lot of paint. And Gary has the ability to go out there and wipe lines off the street and repaint it. He's like, what I'm telling you, it's not going to cost a lot of money. It's just you guys have to think differently about the traffic patterns through, in this case, downtown Hammond. So, Ann, could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. So when Jeff Speck came to Hammond last year, he really loved our downtown core. He thought it had a great urban feel that a lot of Northwest Indiana cities and towns don't have right now. So he really wanted to build upon that, but he felt the traffic along Homan Avenue was just too fast. Cars were speeding through. It was a little unsafe. No one wanted to stop and come out and walk around. So Jeff is really into walkability in downtown cores. So yes, we are going to look into bringing the 4 lanes of traffic just down to 2. Adding a nice tree-filled median in the middle with parking in the middle and on the side. So not only will it be slower, it'll be more attractive, it'll be safer, more interesting, plus we'll have more parking down there for all the potential residents and residential developments that are being planned for the downtown. It's quite exciting.
Some of the challenges that Ann brings up downtown are, you know, I've been downtown hundreds of times. And like when you leave a building in downtown, say you're leaving the toll and you leave on Homan Avenue instead of going in the parking lot, like it's one of the first things that hit you is like, whing, cars going past you. Let's be generous and say 40, 45. But we know people are doing more than that too. And that is definitely, and it's 2 lanes of traffic in each direction and it's fast. And it's literally feet from the toll theater's door. So you don't feel comfortable going that way out of the toll theater, and you certainly can't park out there. And if you do park across the street, you sort of take your life in your hand unless you're going to wait for the light and cross, right? And it really deters development downtown. There's not a lot of parking, and the traffic that you do have is going 50. So Jeff talked to us about sacrificing that cut through and making it slower, but like giving these businesses parking in front of their business. Slowing that traffic down. People are going to be mad, sir. They're going to say, you know what, Mayor, I live in North Hammond, and that's the way I get to Munster. I like to go fast, and you screwed up my shortcut. Now you're making me go on Calumet. We're going to say, yes, we want that type of traffic on Calumet. We don't want that on Homan. It was never intended to be a high-speed north-south route through our city. And if we want to have it downtown, we need to do something about that. And that's what we're trying, sir. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but that's the concept.
There's a time frame for that to actually make that dream
It's not
happen.
far. We're literally talking. There's nothing. We're in a talking stage in Hessville also. I think Hessville's further along personally. I don't know if that's accurate. Do you think?
Well, restriping
No?
can happen very soon on,
Okay.
in the downtown, which is exciting.
And that's easy for Gary. Once we make the decision for Gary, you could do it in the spring easy, right, Gary?
Yep.
So, I mean, we're in the action stage, sir, but I haven't seen any final plans, but we're getting there. We're getting close. I want to try to help downtown. I really think that if we slow down the traffic and give people more parking options, I think we got a better chance than we do right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. If you have like additional kind of like lighting, like the way kind of Whiting does on 119th, and they kind of have all the flowers.
By the way, sir, would you ever go on 119th to go fast through Whiting? Hell no, right? It's slow, right?
Exactly.
But that's part of the reason people feel so comfortable in Whiting. It's slow. Everybody goes slow. You got parking everywhere. Hey, what's up, Joe? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you got the coffee shops. You got
Yes, sir.
the local breweries, etc. The theater. So, I think
Thank you. That's where we're heading. And
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
All right, let's go, Donna.
Mayor, can speed bumps be applied to Alexander Avenue? People are driving too fast through
Good
the
question.
6700 area.
I grew up as your mayor thinking that speed bumps were illegal. And now I see speed bumps, like in Chicago I see speed bumps, I see them in Whiting, and I was like, what? I was always told they were illegal. Is this something new, Dean? No? I was getting lied to?
Well, I'm no lawyer, so I looked through the statute as best I could, and I couldn't find anywhere where speed bumps were listed as being illegal in Indiana.
But I see them way more on the street now, it seems lately. I remember there was one speed bump. It was in a Whiting alley.
Yeah, that was,
And I remember it 'cause it
dangerous.
wiped out
I was
somebody-
with you that day.
Yeah, it
and
wiped
that
out
guy-
somebody during the
yeah.
midnight bike ride. And I was like, I don't think that's supposed to be there.
So the risk is with speed bumps of high centering emergency vehicles and rapid response by those emergency vehicles. I see your hand, ma'am. There is other controls that we can do in that area, but we really need to be mindful of making sure we're protecting our public safety vehicles, and that we're responsible for the drainage, because we don't want to trap any water on the road that would cause icing problems or anything like that. But we're looking at speed humps or speed tables, which you'll see if you're familiar on 45th, where the bicycle trail crosses in Highland. They've raised that crossing a little bit. We're looking at doing that more and more, and we like to do that in downtown Hammond and downtown Hessville, so you have a raised intersection. You're respecting the pedestrian before the car, and we are looking at areas around the city where we could deploy speed humps in order to get traffic to slow down.
Thanks, Dean. Appreciate it. All you wanted to know about speed bumps. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, 164th and Grand in the Hessville area. Is there any way we can get a police officer to, there's a stop sign there and nobody stops. They think the speed limit is smoking US 30 drag strip. I've called the police department 5 times. I've talked to several police officers out on the street, and I was told there is no accidents, it's not my problem.
Gotcha. Sometimes officers aren't super diplomatic, and I apologize for that. It's my job to be more diplomatic than them. 164th and Grand, you said, right, ma'am? Chief, can you?
Yes, ma'am. I'll make sure traffic goes over there, and we do something to try to do some enforcement over there. If you do call the Hammond Police Department, please ask for a traffic supervisor. That would probably help. Make sure you're talking to the right person.
I've called 5 times. I've talked to police officers out on the street. I won't mention any names, but this is getting ridiculous. Because of, I won't go into detail, but because of other things going on over there, something needs to be done now.
Okay, I will get that referred to traffic right away for you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
Mayor, my husband and I are in our 80s and lower 90s, and we would like to ask if we will be receiving a check from your office again this year.
I love this question. Funny enough, I'm going to have Megan Flores, Hammond City Controller, report on this as we speak. Megan Flores, how you doing? That was like a whole ordeal watching you guys do this.
Check, check. Okay.
Nice.
Yes, actually, the envelopes are being stuffed as we speak. They're going to go out in the mail this Friday, so you should see them sometime early to mid next week.
Yeah, Donald Trump wanted to sign them before they went out, so we're giving them. I'm just kidding. That was good, right? All right, I won't quit my side job. All right. Yes, they are coming out. By the way, that program, the senior and disabled exemption checks, they're $500 checks sent out to all seniors who qualify through a state program. They get the senior and disabled exemption on their property tax forms, and we literally just call the county and they give us a list of everybody that has it. We don't maintain the list. We don't add people to the list. We don't take people off the list. That's all done through Lake County government. I know, Kevin, you help us out with that, right? So anyway, it's a great program. We've been doing it for every year I've been mayor. And by the way, I'd like to point out, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the city of Hammond's been challenged money-wise, and the Hammond Council worked with the Hammond Mayor's office, and we made sure that this program is still being funded, and it helps a lot of people. So I'd like to thank our council people for supporting this program, because without their support, I couldn't do that either, and I do like to point that out. So thank you to the Hammond Council and to Megan and everybody in the controller's office. But you should receive your checks within the next couple weeks. There you go. Good question. I don't know any other city that does a program like that, by the way. We almost look at it like it's the seniors college bound program. That's how we sort of justify it, is we have college bound for the families, and the kids going to college, this is what we give to our seniors in Hammond. I think it's a great program, so you should see those checks soon.
Mayor, what is the plan for the old Walmart building?
Good question. Is Africa here? Nope. Oh, we'll have Ann. I like Ann. I like it when Ann has to answer a lot of questions.
Rather than Phil?
Yeah, a lot better
Cool.
than Phil.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I love Phil.
So you may have noticed that the Walmart building is looking a little spiffier right now. They have a new parking lot and some new lighting. That's because North Shore Health, which is about 3/4 of a mile south of here, they have outgrown their spot on Indianapolis,
Yeah.
and they needed to relocate. The current owner of the Walmart building is a developer, and he contacted them, and he is building out a space. It's the east corner of the Walmart building right now for them. They should be moving in soon,
That's
winter
great news.
or early 2021. We'll definitely have a grand opening for them. The rest of the space of the Walmart building will hopefully go towards smaller retail, not the bigger box that we're seeing now, but a smaller footprint of retail that the country is seeing right now. They're working on getting some tenants for the rest of the building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You couldn't have topped that anyway, right, Phil? Uh-oh.
And, Mayor, one thing, though, that people may forget is that the Walmart sat vacant for many years, and once the Sportsplex started under construction, all of a sudden the developer his phone started ringing. And if it wasn't for COVID, you probably would have seen it built out even sooner than it is right now. But there are other retail and restaurant and family entertainment type places that are exploring the option of taking space there as well. So the Sportsplex had a bigger impact than just the revenue that you talked about earlier, Mayor.
That's a pretty good addition. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you for the question. Any follow-ups on that? All right.
Mayor, a resident in the 6700 block of Alexander has been having some problems at home and thinks his sewer needs to be cleaned out and looked at out front. How does he get that done?
My guy Jack Smith, Hessville's very own, hard-working gentleman, works for Hammond Sewer Maintenance Department. Jack, why don't you talk a little bit about, in this case, what's the address again?
6700 Alexander.
I know we get complaints like this a lot, Jack, and I know you probably already surmised what the problem is, but I know you regularly go out and inspect properties like this, right, Jack?
Yes, we do.
So do you have any problem? Do you want to add anything, or you want to just schedule this and have somebody check it out tomorrow?
Nope, we could check it out tomorrow morning and we can go from there. I just need the correct address so I can fill out a complaint form.
Jack's a man of few words. But you know what, though? This guy will be out there jackhammering. He's a boss. And I'll, drive by a job site, and he'll be sitting there with a jackhammering away. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. He's a hard worker for our city. He's been in the sewers across north, south, east, and west in the city of Hammond, and he's a great boss. So I appreciate you being here. And I have no doubt that, Jack, you're going to copy him onto that. He will be there tomorrow to check this out. And the question is, do you have problems that sometimes we experience in the city of Hammond where you have to do work between the line? Marty, could you talk a little bit about this?
Well, the city of Hammond has an ordinance that will not allow us onto the private property of a homeowner. So we can only
It's not an ordinance. We can't go on private property even if we had an ordinance. I can't have an ordinance that says park department can go on my property.
We maintain all the Hammond sewers. Homeowners are responsible for their lateral lines from the house to the sewer mains.
Right.
So anything that's
But
in
I'm not trying to argue with you guys. But even if I had an ordinance that said you could go on private property, I don't think that would be legal. Kevin? We're roping in the lawyer here. He's probably not even paying attention. He's sitting there playing something on his iPad. Kevin, because we have this issue come up a lot.
You're right. I was actually on my phone, Mayor, and I was looking something up on this very issue that you asked me to look up a couple
So
weeks ago.
I have to brief you?
What's that?
The whole issue about when a property owner has a drainage issue, right, or a water line issue, and Marty started off and said, we have a city ordinance that says they can't go on their property, and I said, I don't think that's true.
No,
They can't go on their property
actually, I
anyway,
said I
right?
was looking something up on my phone about this very issue because I knew we were on it. So I did hear the question, and the answer is that you're correct. We could not have an ordinance that says you can go on private property.
Right.
But because, as you and Marty have both pointed out, when this happens to a homeowner, it's usually very tough on the homeowner because it costs thousands of dollars. You've challenged the law department and the sanitary district to get a solution. And there are a couple programs that other communities in the state have been trying to utilize to replace lateral lines and other things. So we're going to try to come to the rescue to those folks when this happens, and we're in the middle of trying to do that.
Marty, how often does this happen citywide where we have an issue where the homeowner thinks it's our issue, but in reality it's the homeowner's issue with the what is it, the lateral line?
The lateral line leaving the
How
house.
often does that happen in Hammond? 5 times a year?
It probably a little bit more than that,
Really?
Mayor, because a lot of the properties throughout the city, a lot of the drainage systems are old, and so they're starting to fail. So Jack probably does inspections, I would say, a couple a week
And
across the
they're
city.
always pissed at us, right, Jack? Because they're like, this is your problem. You have to fix the line.
Right.
And then Marty goes back to his fake ordinance and says, no, we have an ordinance that says we can't do that. But in reality, we can't do that because it's private property. That's where I was coming from the whole time.
Right. That's exactly right.
But as Kevin was pointed out, I have challenged Marty and the law department because this is devastating if you're one of the 5 homeowners. Okay? So let's say Rob's line fails him, right? And Rob calls up Hammond pissed. And he calls up Marty pissed. And Marty's like, sorry, Rob, we can't fix it. It's your problem. It's on your property. Even though it connects our system to your system, you have to replace that lateral line. So Rob goes out to a local plumber, and they say, sorry, Rob, it's going to cost you $7,000 to replace this line, which is ballpark, right?
At least.
So even if it's only happening 5 times a year, if you're the lucky 5, it's devastating financially for a lot of Hammond families. They can't pay the $5,000, $10,000 to fix that issue. And they're naturally pissed at the city, at Marty, at Jack, at me. And then I'm like, my lawyers tell me we can't touch this because I could go to jail and I'm not interested in that. We saw what happened in East Chicago when the city was taking care of private work. We can't do that stuff. Happens 5 times a year at least. It's devastating to the 5 families that happens to. Financially devastating. Some families could absorb that cost. They're not happy about it, but they absorb it and they're pissed. Some families walk away from the house. That's it. I can't do this anymore. So we're trying to find a way where we can legally take care of the 5 people a year that this happens to. And it's going to take some work legally to make sure that we're not violating federal laws. So that's a good question you asked. It's a deep question, and it happens, unfortunately, too often. So any follow-ups on this? Yes, sir. Sharon?
The rainstorm we had, maybe a couple months ago.
I can't hear you, sir.
The last rainstorm we had a couple months ago, it flooded the basement out, the laundry room, because we got storage rooms down there. And it destroyed maybe between 60 and 70% of my pictures.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
And
I know the date. I was talking earlier, my election was on June 3rd, my election for Congress that I lost. June 3rd was a Tuesday, which made the Saturday where we had to protest May 31st-ish. It was a week before that. Right. It was a week before. So May 31st, it was a week before that, your storm. We got 3 inches of rain in 15 minutes, and then with the next 45 minutes, we got another 1 inch of rain. In the city of Hammond, each inch of rain is about 1 billion gallons of rainwater. We got 3 inches in 15 minutes. In my entire time being your mayor, we track every flood event. Every flood event, Marty we have spreadsheets in my office of all the people. Your house is on there, okay? Every flood event, it's a bunch of dots on a map, and we try to learn from it. The biggest flood event we had in 16 years as your mayor was that one, sir. 10 days before my congressional race. It was bad timing for everything, but I'll never forget that. I was in Schleicher, blocking streets, trying to save houses. We were out there. There's nothing we could have done, sir. I'm really sorry. We did a program through Marty's office. We used money that we got from the federal government. We used some of our local money to try to give $500 vouchers to residents for all their lost damage, and it was not enough. We were just trying to help, sir. I'm sure you lost way more than $500 worth of damage and pictures that cannot be replaced.
I got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
One of the tenants over there, a resident, was digging, took the sewer cap off and was digging, it was dark black sludge is what it was. And it was sewage, that's what.
All right.
The only thing I'll add to that, Mayor, is that that storm that we're talking about climate change, that happened in Hessville, which got hit the hardest. We had 1,700 homes. And if you went to the north side of the city, they got less than an inch. Robertsdale got no rain. That's how the climate is changing. And all of us that have lived here a very long time, I know it. I remember during the winter when we would have below 0 days and wind chills that were unbelievable. When was the last time you've seen that? So our storms are becoming more tropical, and they're concentrating on smaller areas of the city. And when you have that combination, you're going to see 3 inches of rain in a half hour, which is what we had. And that's what we're looking at trying to prepare for. How can we combat these type of tropical storms in a city that was laid out many, many years ago? So each street project that we do, we look at what can we do to help better the drainage system. But it's just something that Mother Nature threw upon us. The federal government calls that storm once that will happen in 180 years. That's how crazy that storm was.
But now, sir, we get these definitions for storms from the federal government. They're like, yeah, you got a 1 every 180-year storm, and then the next year you get like that was a 1 every 100-year storm. It's like every year we're getting these labeled storms that are devastating to us. We're trying to learn from it, sir. I apologize. I don't even know what to say to you other than I guarantee you we're trying to learn from your experience. And then 1,700 people suffered damage just like you did, sir. I know exactly how many. We send out letters to every person. I apologize deeply. And, it's a crisis when you're in a situation like that. And hearing the stuff that people said doesn't make it easier on us. They didn't turn the pumps on. That's hogwash. They had the pumps on backwards. Hogwash. You just had my line shut down. That's crazy. Like, everything is running. It's mostly activated automatically when we have heavy water events. Everything just turns on. We were fully ready for that, sir. It was just too much all at once, and we got drowned. It was like if you took 500 gallons of water and dumped it in your bathtub, it would try to handle the water for a second, then it would just bubble over, right? That's what happened to us. I apologize. Thanks for the question. It's a tough job. I'm not complaining. I asked for this, but it is a hard job because things happen, and you have to look at somebody that lost their baby pictures and stuff like that. It's a tough job. I mean, we're trying to do good all the time, sir. So, Donna?
But that was our final question, Mayor.
That was what?
That was it.
Are you kidding?
No.
Jasmine's real happy to hear that, I think.
Can I remind everyone, Mayor,
What's that?
Can I remind everyone that the Veterans Parade is Saturday?
Thank you. Could you talk about that?
And we would like to ask everyone to come out and honor veterans and remind you that there will be some street closings in the area. From 173rd and Alcott down to Kennedy Avenue is the route. So come on out. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Bring the friends and family. Help us honor veterans. And we're going to have a short ceremony in the park at the corner of 173rd and Kennedy after the parade.
And who's the honoree this year?
We have 2 co-grand marshals. One is Specialist 4 Armando Blanco Sr. from the United States Army. And we have Airman Ernie Dillon from the United States Air Force.
That's good. As long as it's not a Marine, that's my only rule. I only say that because Kevin Margraf, I constantly bust on him about being a Marine. He doesn't like Navy guys, so I have to give it back to him. So, anyway, any other questions? Barry, do you have something you wanted to cover?
So we talked a lot about walkability tonight, and so one of the things that I get a lot of questions about is Harrison Park and how that connects to the downtown Hammond renovations. So I'm actually going to toss it to Jim Talon because I know that you've been working a lot with our 3rd District engineer about some of the plans and looking at some of the issues we have with flooding in Harrison Park and what might come next out of that development. So just wanted you to share a little bit about that.
Thanks, Councilman. Hi, Jim. How's it going?
Good, Mayor. Yes, we were looking into the topography of Harrison Park. It is a relatively flat park, is what we've learned. We've done some core samples to see the ground underneath, to see about the drainage issues, and we're currently looking into the pond right now that was out there. So we're going to have somebody do some research on the pond. Once we have all that information, then we'll be able to maybe put something in front of the city to do something to help the flooding that's in that park. I know once I took over, we had some tree issues in there from the storm, but I think a lot of what we're seeing is happening because of that pond, and we're doing research on it right now and should have some information in the next month or so.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Councilman Berry. By the way, Phil just confirmed that the amount of money the city of Hammond pays to the RDA, going back to a question from earlier, is $450,000 a year. So it's right around $10 million total investment into that train extension. And out of that $10 million, we'll get a 10 to 1, at least 20 to 1 return on our money, which is pretty good for the citizens of Hammond. One thing before we wrap up, I would like to point out, we like to bid out jobs to the public. We have a job that we're constantly bidding out, a correction officer position in the Hammond Police Department. Ideal for younger people that are interested in a career in the fire department or in law enforcement. We're very successful about getting our correction officers into the ranks of the Hammond Police Department and the Hammond Fire Department. So if you have a young man or woman that's interested and they want a career in public service, this is a great first option. And they make good money too. Chief, over 40 grand a year to start-ish, right? 38? Yeah, Sharon.
37.
37 with benefits.
With benefits, and
And-
then after a year, up to 39.
Up to 39. And if they stay for a while, because some people decide this is their career, if they stay for a while, you get up closer to 50-ish.
Yes.
So it's a great job. You know, we used to have police officers fill in those positions, and we've converted over to civilians that want to be police and fire people, firefighters, and it's worked really well for us. So, Sharon?
And we are taking applications for testing sometime in November. So if you have anybody interested, please come.
For the
fill out an
correction officer
application.
position.
For the correctional officer position, yes.
And while we're talking about jobs in Hammond residents, another job that comes up often is Class A driver's license, CDLs. If you have a CDL, Gary could get you in usually within weeks, right, Gary? I mean, to get a job in the city of Hammond, people say, Mayor, I want so-and-so. Could my cousin get a job with you? I say, what's their skills? They don't really have any. I'm like, well, do they have a CDL? No. Can they get a CDL? Nah, they don't want to get a CDL. It's like, you're not really selling your cousin very well right now, because if they don't want to get a CDL, what makes me think they're going to bust their butt for Hammond residents, right? So we want you to have a CDL. We don't want to bring people in without CDLs, actually, because a lot of times they sort of camp out and not get a CDL, and that's how you help Gary. That's how you help clear the snow. So if you have a CDL, you see Sharon, personnel officer, you'll be in the city within 2 weeks, employed. Hammond residency obviously required. So I want to say thank you to everybody that shows up for Mayor's Night and wearing their masks and being socially distant. I appreciate that. I appreciate the 100+ people that are watching live on Go Hammond TV. I want to say thank you for trusting me to run the city of Hammond. And I never say thank you enough to these people that help me. They're excellent. They work super hard for you, and they don't make top dollar, but they do a heck of a job for you. I think you get a great bang for your buck. So thank you to the department heads that work for our city. So thank you all. Enjoy. And this is the last Mayor's Night out of the year, so we'll see you in January. Thanks, everybody.